The Bible teaches us that we face a daily spiritual war, but our struggle is not against the people around us, such as spouses, family members, or co-workers, but against Satan and his demons. Ephesians 6 verses 11 to 12 instructs us to put on the full armor of God so that we can stand firm against the devil's schemes, for our battle is against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. This war occurs in the spiritual realm, a plane we do not see, but whose effects we feel every day. The enemy uses our weaknesses, the people around us, and the burdens of our problems to divert us from God's path and steal our peace. Just as medicine has evolved to identify the warning signs of a heart attack, significantly increasing the survival rate of victims, we, as Christians, need to be aware of the signs of spiritual attacks to survive this war. The first sign of a spiritual attack is the loss of desire to seek God. The enemy's goal is to prevent God's work from being accomplished in our lives. When we have no desire to seek God, it can be an indication that we are under attack. Although we should not depend on our feelings but live by faith, it is natural to want to do things for the Lord out of our own desire and not just out of obligation. The second sign of a spiritual attack is physical exhaustion. It may not seem spiritual, but we are beings made up of spirit, soul, and body. When our body is weak, we struggle to keep our thoughts aligned, which can affect us spiritually. Often, the greatest attacks of the enemy occur just before we receive a great blessing or right after we have been blessed by God. Therefore, it's important to be vigilant during periods of great struggle or after significant victories, as they may be indicative that God is preparing something significant for us or that the enemy is trying to wear us down. The third sign that you are suffering a spiritual attack is the scarcity of resources in your life. If you encounter many obstacles and challenging moments, know that it is in these circumstances that the enemy finds an opportunity to act. He will try to divert your attention from God, drawing it towards easy solutions or paths that seem to quickly solve your problems, but deep down, you know they do not align with divine principles. The enemy's goal is to make you more worried and anxious to the point of forgetting to worship God, thus achieving his purpose, to distance you from the Lord's presence. Therefore, it is crucial to be mindful of what is in your heart. The Bible instructs us to guard our heart above all things, for it is the wellspring of life. Be vigilant about the paths you choose, and the options presented to you. In times of scarcity or abundance, temptation may arise. When it seems you have nothing, when the pantry is empty or the money is short, the enemy will try to make you doubt God's provision. Conversely, when everything starts going well, and you have everything you need, the danger lies in becoming complacent and drifting away from dependence on God. In both scenarios, the key is to remain steadfast with God. Continue trusting him, regardless of the circumstances. Pray before making any decision and seek the Lord's direction for your life. Remember, in times of difficulty or prosperity, our faith and trust in God should not waver. Stay strong, for the storms and challenging times will pass. With God by your side, you are capable of overcoming any challenge and emerging stronger from these spiritual battles. The fourth sign of a spiritual attack is weakness in your prayer life. It's common to have ups and downs in your relationship with God, but a lack of prayer indicates that the enemy is working to distance you from God. When you find yourself in this spiritual weakness, it's precisely the time to intensify prayer, seek God more, and fight against the inclinations of the flesh. This pattern was exemplified by Jesus before his crucifixion. He withdrew to pray in Gethsemane, asking his disciples to keep watch, but they were overcome by tiredness and fell asleep. When Jesus found them sleeping, he questioned them, especially Peter, about not being able to keep watch for even an hour, emphasizing the importance of watching and praying to not fall into temptation, for the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Therefore, be attentive to calls for prayer, whether it's a personal request or an invitation to a prayer meeting. Your response to these invitations reveals much about your spiritual state. If prayer becomes a task that is postponed or ignored, it may indicate that your communion with God is weakened, and the enemy can use this vulnerability to further divert you from the Lord's path. The strength of our spiritual life is often measured by our dedication to prayer. When we neglect this fundamental aspect, we give room for the enemy to work against us. Therefore, even when you feel weak, discouraged, or distant from God, remember that prayer is the key to reinforcing your faith, renewing your strength, and standing firm against the enemy's attempts to divert you from the love and presence of God. The fifth sign of a spiritual attack is feeling overwhelmed by circumstances. In difficult times, the enemy tries to increase our burdens, making it hard to see a way out or to maintain hope. Proverbs 13 verse 12 reminds us that hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. The enemy's goal is to weaken us in the face of adversity, sowing doubts about God's promises, making us feel unable to persevere to the end, which can sicken our heart. However, Hebrews 11 verse 1 defines faith as confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Therefore, it's crucial to strengthen the heart, eliminating all discouragement and lack of faith, as these feelings only serve to hinder us. If the enemy can make you lose hope, he will be undermining your faith. If something didn't work out in your life, it doesn't mean it never will. God's promises might seem delayed, but that doesn't mean they won't be fulfilled. If someone betrayed your trust, it doesn't imply that everyone will do the same. Therefore, don't give up. Do not allow your heart to become hardened, practice forgiveness, and above all, continue seeking God. Don't let the enemy steal the seed of faith and hope that God planted in you. The sixth sign of a spiritual attack is noticing a return to old habits and sins. This phenomenon commonly occurs in challenging moments, when the desire for a break or pleasure becomes stronger. For example, after an exhausting day at work, it's natural to feel that we deserve a moment of relaxation or joy. However, this does not justify seeking relief in harmful actions. In these times of vulnerability, some people may be seduced back into vices such as alcohol, drugs, or relationships outside the principles established by God, mistakenly believing they will find some comfort in them. The Apostle Paul warns us to be wise and not ignore the devil's schemes. The most effective response to these temptations is to adopt a stance of honesty and seek divine guidance. Falling back into past mistakes can lead someone to abandon their faith, making the path back to God's presence much more difficult. Therefore, vigilance, prayer, and perseverance is essential. The book of Galatians, in chapter 5, verse 1, reinforces this message: it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm, then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. This teaching underscores the importance of valuing our one freedom and resisting the temptation to engage again in practices that enslave us. And the seventh and last sign of a spiritual attack is distancing from the friendships that God placed in your path. It's important to observe your life and reflect on your companions. Have you been attending church? Are you walking alongside people who seek to draw closer to God? If the answer is no, it's possible that the enemy is acting in your life to distance you through friendships. Notice if you have drifted away from those with whom you once talked and now wish to keep distance. This may indicate a growing interest in worldly things, knowing that the proximity of these people could encourage you to pray and seek God, something you may no longer desire. The Bible, in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, warns, "Do not be misled, bad company corrupts good character." This teaching highlights the significant influence that friendships can have on us, both positively and negatively. The choice of our companions can lead us closer to or farther from God. Thus, it's crucial to be mindful of the people we share our time with and how these relationships affect our faith and behavior. These 7 signs are fundamental alerts for our spiritual survival. Identifying when we are under attack and understanding the best way to respond to these onslaughts strengthens our position in the fight against adverse spiritual forces. It's essential to stand firm in faith, protected by the armor of God, so that we can resist the snares of the evil one. In this way, we continue our path alongside God, overcoming the adversities present in the spiritual world. This understanding not only prepares us to face and overcome spiritual challenges but also encourages us to maintain constant vigilance over our conduct and the influences that surround us. Staying alert to these signs and adopting a proactive stance in faith ensures a solid and resilient spiritual journey, marked by closeness to God and resistance to the diversions that the world may present. Thank you very much for watching. If you've made it this far, please share this message and leave a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to Spiritual Journey so you don't miss upcoming videos. May God be with you.